if he breaks the contract, doesn't that remove a bunch of restrictions on Odium?
Yes.
Like that?
But it opens him up to being directly assaulted by his forces. Again,
Okay.
right?
Maybe.
Like Kaladin, Adolin, Shallan, they can all go stab Odium.
But, okay. Okay, I'm thinking about this very differently.
The war starts again.
Okay. I think I'm thinking longer term.
Uh-huh.
Way longer term.
Welcome back to Following Noah on a Stormlight podcast. This week is episode 269, and we are in chapters 137 through 142. Not yet done with the Contest of Champions. Paul, how are you?
Well, as you said, we're not yet done with the Contest of Champions, so I think I'm good this week. I think I'm okay. Not sure how I'm feeling. All I know is I'm feeling unsure about how this is going to go.
There's a lot of question marks over this episode. Eliot, how are you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of scariness. But you can't beat all the warm fuzzies of bread baker Noadon sitting you down and feeding you some nice fluffy fresh bread right out of the oven and telling you it's gonna be okay.
Does he say that?
Not really, but that's kind of the vibe. That's the vibe.
That's the vibe. He I don't feel like he says it's gonna be okay. I feel like he says, yeah, you need to make sure you make the right decision here, is what he says.
Yeah, more or less.
Do you want to summarize for us, Eliot? I'm going to cover epigraphs, but we'll do the summary.
Okay.
And the 2 words first.
I will summarize. I'll summarize. My same caveat from last episode applies again. It is scattered. Some of our segments of POVs are 4 sentences. So we're going to jump a lot. Here we go. Chapter 137. Mraize does not take Shallan up on her offer of becoming a hero, and they fight. And Shallan wins and kills Mraize with quite the clever trick. Actually, this was so Lightweaver, the way all this went down. It's actually pretty brilliant. But Shallan tricks Mraize, kills him, takes him down. In the middle of 137, we jump back over to the Shattered Plains, where we get the big reveal that we kind of anticipated, or I think, Trevor, maybe you called this, was that the enemy, the fused, L, thinks he's won. He's taking control of the Shattered Plains. I've got this. All right, contest has started. I win. And Venli kind of raises her hand and goes, actually, no, you don't, because I have a treaty right here with Yasna that says the listeners, the independent nation of the listeners, have been identified as the sovereigns of the Shattered Plains. So, L, please move off your army. You're on our lands. To which he basically just says, okay, see you later. And L walks off.
You got me.
Pretty much. Still in chapter 137, we jump to Dalinar. We're going to spend a lot of time with Dalinar here in these couple of chapters, these segments of chapters. Dalinar is still wrestling with his choice. Right at the end of last episode, we kind of broke it down. What is the dilemma that he's facing? Dalinar's just wrestling with it. Wrestling. The very last words, though, of chapter 137, Dalinar seems to have an epiphany. He says, I know what to do. I know the words. Capital W, words. Chapter 138 is fairly straightforward, short-ish. Shallan says goodbye to Radiant. Shallan reaches a point where she no longer needs Radiant and kind of absorbs her back in. We then spend some time popping around between a bunch of people over in our Szeth, Kaladin, Ishar world, where Ishar has unleashed the darkness, the pain on all of them. And so in my notes, I literally just have Nail suffers, Syl suffers, Szeth suffers. And that's like 6
Accurate.
pages, but they're just kind of suffering in
Mhm.
the darkness. Kaladin is also suffering, but Kaladin is able to push through the suffering, and Kaladin stands up to resist. And that leads us into chapter 139, where Kaladin drops all kinds of crazy quotes in to Ishar. Some cool stuff happening in 139. Kaladin, under the weight of all this pain and this sadness and this darkness, says, Ishar, you will be warm again. Reaches out to him. Then it culminates with nothing less than Kaladin speaking the 5th ideal of the Windrunners. And
Woo!
yep, that confetti, launch all the party.
Yippee! Yippee!
That apparently Szeth wasn't enough, but Kaladin's got the power. That is the moment that shakes Ishar out of it, and they're able to connect and talk and try to figure out a solution from that point on. Still in chapter 139, Dalinar is still wrestling with what do I do here? He's now trying to tackle connecting with Honor. He's trying to convince Honor to, again, let him take up the power and become the vessel. And the words that he claims to have found back from chapter 137 are, I understand you. And he kind of takes this tact of, Honor, you need to bond with me. Yes, I'm a human. Yes, I've broken my oaths, but I know what you've been through. That's the strategy he takes. Chapter 140. Kaladin and Ishar are trying to make progress here. Kaladin draws Nightblood. He's trying to fight the darkness back with Nightblood. He ends up handing Nightblood over to Szeth. Szeth is fighting all the puppet honor bearers with Nightblood. Nightblood gives Szeth all the surges. Remember, Szeth has broken his oath, his bond at this point, so he has no surge binding. But Nightblood is just like, oh yeah, I've learned how to do all the surges, so here you go. And Szeth battles all the honor bearers with that. We get a brief, another section of Dalinar wrestling with his decision still and trying to figure out what he's going to do and whether he can take up honor or not. We then, at the end of chapter 140, get the finally get the moment where Renarin and R'hllane break the gem. This we joked about this last episode if you've listened to that recently. They've been holding this gem for quite a while. 7, 8, 9 chapters at this point. And finally in chapter 140, they slam it down on the ground and they break it. Mishram is free. And the freeing of Mishram, we'll get into this, unlocks a few things, the biggest of which is that is kind of the moment, and this happens in chapter 141, that Honor can move past the betrayal of humans and accepts Dalinar Kholin, and Dalinar Kholin becomes the vessel of Honor in chapter 140.
Psh, confetti! Whee!
More
Yippee!
confetti.
Yippee!
And I still have more to go. So chapter 141, that's the opening bit of chapter 141. But then we jump back over to Renarin and R'hllane. Mishram comes out. She ain't not happy. Mishram is cranky, as we expected, wants to just slam and destroy everyone. And Renarin very gallantly defends. I said all that backwards. R'hllane gallantly defends Renarin from Mishram and prevents Mishram from killing him right there in the moment. And then the two of them get kind of chucked out of the spiritual realm and they appear back in the physical realm. So quest complete for Renarin and R'hllane. End of chapter 141 is back to Szeth as he is battling the honor bearers and he faces his sister. He also faces like all the whispers, the voices that have been nagging him for years and years. They like come to life in this section and he fights them all and ends up killing his sister at the end. Chapter 142 is our last chapter for this sequence, and we spend a lot of it with Honor and Dalinar, and no other than our good friend Noadon appears in chapter 142. Dalinar,
Yippee! Yippee!
the vessel of Honor, steps into a vision and spends some time chatting with Noadon over a bit of crusty, fresh baked bread as they try to figure out what in the world they need to do. And Honor's there, Dalinar's there. They're talking through it. Dalinar seems to kind of make some decisions. It's not fully revealed to us exactly what Dalinar's going to do. We're going to talk about it, but he kind of closes the chapter with, all right, I know what I need to do. Send me back. I've got this. He goes back. He faces Taravangian, and he says, I renounce my oaths. And that's the end of the chapter. That's where we leave it. That is where we are stuck as of right now in our Wind of Truth journey with no more.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I just want to talk about Dalinar right away, but we probably shouldn't do that. We should probably save it for last. Paul, do you have 2 words?
Yes, I do, Trevor. Yes, I do. My 2 words. I feel it's ironic that as we've gotten further into this, I feel my words are getting less abstract and more direct. My 2 words are King's Dilemma, which is obvious, straightforward, doesn't need much explanation. That is about Dalinar in this Contest of Champions. Dalinar, Noadon, and Taravangian are names I'd throw in that ring as having to figure out what to do with these really hard choices. We talked about this briefly last episode, much more in depth in a long time ago, about these dilemmas of what do you do as a king, back to the examples of like the 4 people, and one is like a thief or a murderer or something. What do you do with them? And then what we'll talk about here is do you eliminate one person's life to try and save the rest? What do you do? It's a dilemma all the way around. It just Dalinar circles around on this like 10 times, like over and over. What do you do? So that's just like the main takeaway for me is this King's Dilemma is what I'd call it here, to give it a little name.
Eliot?
Yeah, mine are not very metaphorical either, because I feel like the metaphors and the themes, like they're in the text, they're coming out in these chapters. So I don't even need to add to it with, takeaways or things. So I'm going fairly literal too. Mine are very related to Dalinar. I'm not going to go into them because we're going to get into it at the very end as we get into what is kind of Dalinar's plan going forward. But my 2 words are legacy and sacrifices. And I'll talk more about them later.
Those are 2 very exciting words. Okay. We're going to start with epigraphs since I did tease something last episode about the epigraphs. So buckle up. I'm going to read epigraphs from, I believe it's 132 all the way through 142. And then we'll discuss them. Much of what I know of the Night of Wind I get from Yasna Kholin, now head of our order, and a woman who has shown much patience for a simple Shin bookworm who thinks herself worthy of the task of writing this account. To this day, I wish I had all the answers. Would that someday a historian could make a record with all possible information at her fingertips. For example, what was it Ishu did to prepare himself for what he knew the knights would attempt? It still baffles explanation, as do many bondsmith arts. I can say this. I believe the fact that Ishu was bearing some of the pain of each and every herald is an extremely relevant point in this analysis. For while he gave the darkness, he indeed did hold part of it. I keep returning to this idea, as I feel it should be explored further. For the events surrounding the contest at Urithiru, I must refer you to another volume of this multi-author work, one that has unfortunately not yet been written. There were not 2 heroes that day, but many. And the existence of those several key people is the one thing that I myself have heard from the wind. This singular truth, a nugget that I cannot yet explain. One is not enough. The change must come from many. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the testimony of one man's experience, that of what it felt like to be in the very depths of despair, and then to have someone stand up and try their best to shield you from it. The wind itself accepted his words. The curious effect that the black sword has on individuals is one that I find poorly recorded. It is true that many feel nausea when picking it up, which is a sign of a heart uncorrupted by greed. Others are then corrupted by that greed. More interesting are those in between, those who feel neither emotion, those who can use the sword, but walk a fine line upon its edge. Those who are not there, you future readers, understand. Even hundreds of miles away from the event, I heard the thunder. The land trembled at what Dalinar Kholin did. All right, what I teased last week is there's a change in narrator through these epigraphs. Having read all those back to back, Eliot, can you guess where it is?
I am still just as confused as I was before when you revealed this. I need to flip through this and check, but I didn't notice any difference in the notation of the epigraphs. They all are simply credited to from Knights of Wind and Truth, page blah blah, and then it lists a page. So I don't know.
I think there's no change in diction because they're both Shin. That's my hypothesis. We've hypothesized the author was the daughter of the family that Kaladin and Szeth grabbed the wagon from. Right?
Because one of the epigraphs says that.
Right. I think that changes after it says, for the events surrounding the contest of Urithiru, I must refer you to another volume of this multi-author work, one that has unfortunately not yet been written. Change to Michael Kramer, there were not two heroes that day, but many. I think it's this young Shin girl, and then I think is Szeth. Because it references, I was in the depths of despair and someone stood up to do their best to shield me from it. That's in that chapter of the epigraph of Kaladin standing up and saying his fifth ideal. I think Szeth is the author here of the second part of this.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on any of that, but I'm following the logic that you're laying out for sure. That is intriguing if that's true. I actually completely missed the point, the line where it says this is a multi-author work. And I read these chapters twice, and I completely even missed that. So I was still under the impression this was one author, even after reading this. So that opens up a whole realm of possibilities here. Interesting.
I think Knights of Wind and Truth is a collection of works, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's Szeth, the second author, who's writing about Nightblood and hearing the contest from Urithiru all the way in Shinovar, depths of despair, someone stood up for me?
I'm quite conflicted on this. I mean, I want to say yes, because that also gives Szeth a lot more plot armor.
I was going to say, that would imply that he survives to live and write this.
Yeah, that does imply that. I could see that being honestly satisfying fulfillment for Szeth, in that he's going to do something peaceful, and as the Shin people would view, he would be adding, not subtracting, right? I could see that being a really cool end to his story, but I don't know. I don't know how fitting that would be. I'm not convinced.
I'm also not convinced. Plausible, but not convinced by any means.
Fair enough. That's what I mainly wanted to point out, is that I think Szeth's odds of living this book have gone up dramatically for me after reading these epigraphs. And we can get into our chapters. Let's go ahead and start at the Kaladin Szeth stuff, since we're kind of talking about them already. Chapter 139, of Book 5 of a massive series, Kaladin has sworn his 5th ideal. I will protect myself so that I can continue to protect others. He says this to rebuff and successfully rebuff Ishar and his darkness that he is imposing on our party here. And I have a couple mixed feelings on Kaladin's 5th ideal. What did you guys think? Because I feel like as far as ideals go, we've kind of diverted from the original, like, what are the words going to be? We don't actually know. This is one of the rare ones where it was still a classic ideal. We didn't know what the words were going to be until he said them. Did you guys see this coming?
I did not see this coming because I think Kaladin was pretty insistent that this wasn't coming.
Right.
Because that was, I think he goes into processing that at one of these points in one of these chapters where the 4th ideal was so hard for him. He was assuming the 5th ideal would be an order of magnitude harder. And then kind of gets to the conclusion of, oh, that was it? Almost, kind of. It's a big deal. And the book, I think, builds it up to be a big deal, but it's not the struggle that Rhythm of War and the 4th ideal was for Kaladin. So yeah, I was surprised, and I think that it was a good progression for Kaladin. I think it's a very logical ideal. If we had sat down, I think we've theorized on this before, and we've probably talked at least around this kind of set of words. I don't think it was too much of a surprise what the ideal itself was, but
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
agree.
make me like it any less. I think it's a great capstone for his journey as a windrunner.
Honestly, yeah, I agree so much. This felt very fulfilling. It felt like it fit with what we've seen with Kaladin. Kaladin's story not only being one of protecting others, but being one of learning to even look out for himself in a good way. And so this felt like a really great cap to that. Um, I was super on board. It felt like it had the weight that I want a 5th ideal to have. It felt fitting. I know last week I was talking fairly skeptically about Szeth's. We talked about that a bit. I feel a bit better about it now than I did at that time. I think I was missing maybe that I still don't know for sure if it was supposed to be a 4th and a 5th together type of thing, or if that's not really what happened. But, anyways, that's not what this is about. I was a little skeptical and not 100% sold on that ideal, but this one I am. I'm like, the shoe fits, and it it all. I think it fits really nicely. I think it was very good.
I'm in the boat. I'm in the same boat that Kaladin is. I made the assumption that this would be this massive reveal, like character push forward that the like the 4th was, like the 3rd was, and it wasn't. Kaladin has come to this conclusion already and is fine saying these words, and I'm fine with that. I thought I would be disappointed by some standard progression, like logical, okay, yeah, that makes sense, ideal. I'm not. I think this is a really cool, like you said, Eliot, capstone to Kaladin's journey in the front half here. He needs to protect himself so that he can continue to protect others. I think that's a great 5th ideal. It's nothing mind blowing. It's not like on the epic scale that the 4th ideal was, but I think that's fine. I think it's fine.
I think there were actually some other lines in here that I like just as much or maybe even more. And I referenced one of them in my summary, which was reaching out to Ishar and comforting him.
Okay.
There's there's a lot packed into 2 pages here. It's a kind of short segment, actually, where all this happens. But Kaladin is standing up in the midst of this darkness. The book makes a big deal about this, that everyone else is so crippled by this oppressive darkness and sadness that's just crushing them, that they're just like, everybody's just in the fetal position trying to survive. Nail, Syl, Szeth, everybody. And Kaladin is the one who can look up. The book even says something like, and so often that's what it begins with, looking up, which that itself is a reference to the dog and the dragon, right?
Yeah.
With the dog looking up towards the dragon. It's in our artwork. It's a background of our YouTube here. If you're watching us on YouTube,
over there off screen.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
just a little off screen. And then standing up and in the midst of the weight of this oppressive darkness, realizing that this is what Ishar feels like all the time. And all the other Hoid stories that he threw at him earlier that just kind of bounced off, he finally hits him with the big guns, with the dog and the dragon. And he says, Ishar, you will be warm again. And this all then culminates in the I will protect myself so that I may continue to protect others, which was pretty cool. So I like the sequence of it.
I agree.
There was one bit, though, that I do want to call out that I thought was pretty cheesy.
I feel like Kaladin's therapy stuff here either like definitely hits for you or definitely doesn't.
It's consistent. It fits in with the journey and the discussions we've had along the way. But yeah, Trevor, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Ishar and him are kind of sparring still. He hasn't said the ideal yet, so Ishar hasn't been like awoken yet. But Ishar is like, how are you doing this? What are you? Are you a spren? Are you a god? And Kaladin says, no, I'm his therapist.
I'm a therapist.
I
What is
was-
that?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like I'm oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that line missed for me too, I'll be honest.
Funny enough, I feel like this is an unpopular opinion. I had no problem with that. I thought it was funny. It was kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit. I think they've talked about that some before, so maybe not. But funny. I could get behind it. What's probably unpopular, I don't know how many people feel this way. For me, what doesn't deliver is simply the line, "You will be warm again."
Oh, what?
I love the dog and the dragon. It's like my favorite scene. Like, but one of my it's my favorite Hoid story. It's like one of my favorite moments in the whole in the whole Stormlight archive. But I don't know, something about I didn't like it then, and I don't like it here. Something about just the phrase "you'll be warm again." I don't know. It doesn't hit for me, but I realize that's probably just me. That's fine. I'm not gonna diss it too much, but it's never sat right with me. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm hot natured and I live in Texas. Like, I don't want to be warm. Like, I don't know, like, you will be warm again. I
okay.
understand the sentimentality of it, and I understand the vibe. It just never hit for me. I'm
Put
sorry.
yourself in my shoes. You're working night shift at a mine in Colorado, and it's -5 degrees outside, and I have to tell myself, you will be warm again. Just get through this shift. Can you get there?
Okay, I understand what you're talking about. And moving past the physical warmth, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't. This is an emotional. You will be warm again. You will be better. You'll feel better. You'll be cozy. Things will move. It gets better. Life gets better. Sentiments. I don't know. It also felt funny to me in this specific context. This is not applied to the dog and the dragon. Of
Mhm.
like, I feel like Kaladin cannot guarantee that for Ishar here.
Sure.
As
I
as a side note, but that's not why I'm disliking it. But
I
I
will
feel
back
mean.
you. No, I will back you up, Paul. The line is a little awkward to me, specifically
me,
here.
yeah.
Not necessarily in the Dog and the Dragon. Like he's specific in the Dog and the Dragon. He's on Mraize. He's freezing, and Hoyd gives him the little warmth campfire bubble and gives him a pep talk. Like, but specifically on this one, it does kind of, it's a little awkward to me. I do agree with you.
Yeah, and I feel mean because my understanding is that's a pretty beloved line for a lot of people
Uh-huh.
around. So I don't want to be mean. I don't want to like hate on it because I don't hate it. I'm not like, oh, I can't believe he said this. You will be warm again. That's ridiculous. It's just not to my taste. It doesn't hit like it's supposed to hit for me. Like my understanding is that was supposed to hit really hard, and it did not hit hard for me. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's all.
There's one more line in this section I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on because I could see this maybe becoming iconic down the road. We've actually kind of talked this chapter like backwards. This is actually kind of one of the first
Yeah,
big
my
things
bad.
that
Yeah.
that Kaladin said. Totally okay, totally okay. One of the first things that Kaladin says actually after standing up, after trying to shield the others from this pain, Ishar, the very first response Ishar says is like, "Oh, this is impossible. What are you?" And the response that Callan comes back, I could see this maybe becoming an iconic line. He says, "I'm just an old spear that wouldn't break." Yes, no? Does that one hit for you?
Yeah,
Nope.
I like that one. I like that one.
Nope.
Trevor
I
says
get
no?
behind that.
It was
Trevor doesn't
awkward in
wanna
Oathbringer. It's awkward now.
What was the quote in Oathbringer? He doesn't refer to himself as old though, right? He just
No.
says the spear that wouldn't break.
So
Right.
the Oathbringer line, there's an epigraph about there's a death rattle about a spear going to war and not breaking. And then Kaladin names that of himself as he's fighting Amaram at the end of Oathbringer. And it's just it's a little clunky to me. I don't know, maybe this whole chapter is a little clunky to me, except for the fifth
It-
ideal.
This is something that I've been wrestling with for real. Like, I don't want to put. This is the end of Era One, the Stormlight Archive as we know it.
Right.
So naturally, there's a lot of weight on dialogue, how things happen, how things are said, all this stuff. But I don't want to be too critical,
Sure.
unnecessarily critical, or rude or like mean. Whenever like obviously there's a ton of pressure, so it's kind of like if you get too picky, then you're not going to be happy with anything that is said or done here. But I don't know. Also, at the same time, I did like the spear line. I was cool with that. The really only one I had a complaint about perhaps was the "you'll be warm again," but that's fine. But I don't know. It is really hard. I'm just acknowledging that that's really really hard, and there are such high expectations put on this. So
All right.
it's really a
I think
I don't know. Either
it's
you'll
the
love it regardless or not like it, you know?
it's the expectations and comparisons for me. I am
Yeah.
I'm of the idea that Brandon Sanderson's epic moment dialogue is top tier. See Sunlit Man, End the Way of Kings, whatever. That when there needs to be something epic said, Brandon Sanderson can deliver.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, not a lot. There is a handful of misses in Wind and Truth, and that's not a huge critique. It's just like, okay, moving on, waiting for the next big epic moment, which there are several, and there are plenty. It's just some of them miss for me, and that's fine.
I can agree with that.
And then Kaladin grabs Nightblood and throws it to Szeth. And Nightblood feeds off of Kaladin, I think. And okay. Well, we actually get 2 huge cliffhangers in this episode. Thanks, Tim. We get Nightblood's gonna explode and kill us all, and that's how we leave Kaladin and Szeth at the end of this episode. Like, Nightblood's about to explode, like he was about to in the end of Oathbringer, and that's how we leave it.
And even more than that, even more than, oh my gosh, Nightblood is going off the charts. I think it's the wind is chiming in again.
Uh-huh.
The wind is talking to Kaladin. The wind is like, it's coming.
Be ready.
It's coming. Be ready. The multitudes of Spren are bracing themselves. Will you be there when we need you? What is about to happen?
Yep, that's where we leave it. Are we about to swear another oath pact? Are we going to? Is Roshar gonna explode?
Well,
what's going on?
This feels like something else. Like we've got Dalinar posed in the middle of the contest. What's going to happen there? We've got Ishar, who's kind of been dealt with at this point, but his power's still going crazy, and Nightblood is like I said, going off the charts. And then the wind is like, embrace yourselves because it's coming. We've had talk of, and I think it might even be hinted at in these chapters, of another storm.
Oh yeah, it's probably Ba-Ado-Mishram because the Spren are freaking out.
Oh yeah, okay. That would
Okay,
actually,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
That could be the thing.
Because the Spren, you're right. There's another storm mentioned. Whoever had that on their bingo card, and it's not here yet, but it's coming apparently. And yeah, so Ba-Ado-Mishram gets released, and then a storm is coming.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's figurative or literal. We'll find out next chapter.
I'm hoping for literal because it's my bingo board that's on.
You're gonna sit there arguing. There's a storm of emotion on Roshar, and yes. I get my bingo slot.
Storm of change.
Yes,
was brewing. Yeah, and this was hinted at, this third storm, like from the beginning, day one.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that actually comes, and I wasn't baited on that this whole time, waiting for it to happen.
I guess we can go into. Do you guys have anything else on the Kaladin and Szeth stuff besides Nightblood's about to explode and Roshar's about to explode and everything's about to explode? I don't know if do we want to throw predictions or do we just want to wait till next week?
I don't know if I really have predictions. I mean, I could come up with something and guess of what's coming forward. I did actually have one more thing in these chapters, maybe worth bringing up, and that is the whispers, the voices. Did you guys
finally puts the whispers down?
Well, does he? Like, that's maybe kind of the question. How much did you guys read into that segment? So he's battling the honor bearers, and he gets to the point where he's fighting Elid, his sister, and she is the truth watcher honor bearer. And the segment even goes on about, and truth watchers are kind of trippy, so things started wigging out as soon as Szeth starts fighting her. And what happens is all those voices, Szeth and the voices in the shadows has been a thing ever since we've gotten Szeth POV, as far as I can remember.
Yes, like even not the prologue, but ever since the prologue.
Right, and not flashback. There's a different The Voice in flashbacks, but
right.
Modern day Szeth, as far back as we've been with him, the voices of all of his victims haunt him, speaking whispers out of the shadows, and he does everything he can to like drown them out. in this scene, in this sequence where he's fighting Eliot, his sister, the voices come alive. That the shadows like step out of the shadows and the whispers are real and they start to come after him. And Eliot, I think, is doing this on purpose because she's like 100% confident that's just going to cripple Szeth and that alone will overwhelm him. And so when Szeth is even able to resist that and stand up and fight back is kind of the moment where he beats her. Do you guys take anything bigger kind of out of that, or is that it? He's kind of conquered the voices.
There's an internal monologue line from Szeth. I wish I wrote it down, but he says something to the effect of, he acknowledged that they were not real, which didn't make it any less of a problem, but it did strip them of authority, or something like that. Like, he acknowledged that he has power. Or, yeah, I wish I got the diction exact, because it was a very exact statement. He claims responsibility over them, I think, and acknowledges that they are not real.
So yeah, I didn't really have any more thoughts on that other than that felt like a fairly important moment for Szeth in here, worth mentioning.
All right. We'll see if Nightblood explodes. I hope next week, maybe the week after. Let's go to Ba-Ado-Mishram and the Shallan's. Actually, let's do Shallan first. Shallan kills Mraize. I honestly was not expecting this. I thought we'd get a semi-frenemy farewell with Mraize and send him off into future books. And I figured somebody would cross paths with him at some point. No. Shallan and Mraize both come to the conclusion that the other has to die. They have a cool sleight of hand fight, and Shallan stabs him.
The sleight of hand was actually, I think, super cool. Sometimes these kinds of things feel a little gimmicky to me, where hero goes up against the villain's way stronger, but hero grabs the thing he didn't notice and tricks him and wins. So sometimes those things don't land for me. This one did. This one I thought was actually really cool and incorporates a lot of the Lightweaver stuff that we've seen up until now, because Shallan pulls like a 3 or 4 way misdirect all at the same time, which I thought was genius. To be able to think on this level, I can't think this fast. You know, in the moment where you're trying to battle with someone, to be able to think 3 or 4 steps ahead that quickly, super, super cool. Because she disguises herself as Pattern, attacks Mraize, pretends to have pickpocketed him in that segment where she's disguised as Pattern. He realizes that it's not Pattern, it's Shallan, goes to attack her. She pulls out her dagger, which no longer has the anti-light in it because she used the anti-light to kill Iato. But she light weaves it to look like it does, so that Mraize thinks that she stole his dagger that does still have anti-light, and she light weaves his dagger to look like it doesn't have anti-light in it. So when he pulls his out, he goes, "Oh, you swapped them. How'd you do that?" And so then he fights to get his dagger back, which he successfully does, but it was a trick the whole time. So he ends up just giving Shallan the anti-light dagger, which she gratefully takes and stabs him with. They end up stabbing each other at the same time, actually. She takes the hit. She lets him stab her so that she can also stab him, but she's got the one with the anti-light, so she can just heal. He tries to heal and melts his insides. It's like, whoa, we are 40 chessing this battle out here. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it landed for me too. I thought it was really good.
She says something too in this section, which I thought was intriguing. It made me think. She says, after killing him, she speaks what sounds like an ideal almost. And she says,
she never actually acknowledges her ideal, so it might be.
Right. back to the whole Shallan breaks all the rules, right? So I'll say what she does, and you guys tell me what you think, what this is. She says, I have a choice. I make it now to no longer let myself be abused. Great. Fits a chapter. I'm with it. Go Shallan. Much cheering and applause. Is that an idea? There we go. Applause.
I needed to set up a soundboard sooner in this podcast.
There you go.
That applause scared me, by the way. I literally jumped if you were watching live. I was not expecting it. Man, I do not know. You're right. She does break all the rules, so I could totally see us going into these next chapters and being like, oh yeah, she's the fifth ideal. And I could also them be like, it could just as easily be the opposite, where it's like, no, that was just a good thought she had, a good sentiment, you know. But it was very decisive, or it was very much a declaration. So it feels very much fifth ideal. I think we should call it the fifth ideal. That it's a fifth ideal, because if one more radiant reaches the fifth ideal, I get to mark off another bingo slot.
I was going to say, is
3
this bingo inspired?
Ooh.
Yes, I need 3 radiants to have to declare their fifth ideal. So,
well, I was going to say that Dalinar's got you, but I actually don't think Dalinar's got you.
I don't know what's happening over there. I was wondering about that. I'm eager to talk about Dalinar.
We'll get there momentarily. We got Renarin and Rlain to cover.
Okay.
They, which feeds into your bingo slot as well. They release Ba-Ado-Mishram.
Mm-hmm.
They throw the gem on the floor. She comes out and it starts attacking Renarin, and Rlain's like, back off, we're together. And Renarin and Rlain are doing their best to try to show Ba-Ado-Mishram we can coexist. It can be possible. Singers and humans can coexist despite the betrayal that you had, whatever it is, 2,000 years ago at this point. Prediction, gentlemen. Oh, and there was a big storm that came out with Ba-Ado-Mishram. Is it going to work? Have we convinced Ba-Ado-Mishram, or is she going to go on her revenge tour 2025?
I don't know. I'm confused because, or maybe conflicted. I don't know what the right word is. Because the book is very clear. This is actually in one of the Dalinar point of views, though, that the instant when Ba-Ado-Mishram is released, Roshar was righted.
Yep.
Roshar, it was as if something that was wrong. This is me kind of paraphrasing now. It was as if something that was wrong was finally, after all this time, corrected. Interesting, because based on the foreshadowing that we've seen so far and all of our experiences with Mishram, as far as we know, we have just let the devil out of the jar. We have just let a very angry, very powerful force go do whatever damage she's been waiting to do for thousands of years.
Let me ask you this question, though. Is returning Ba-Ado-Mishram to Roshar the correction, or is redeeming the broken oath the correction?
Of those two, I mean, of those, I feel like it's not a one or the other. It would be both, wouldn't it?
Well, so what I think Eliot's arguing here is Eliot's not sure we should have let Ba-Ado-Mishram out of the jar. But Dalinar, it would seemingly say we should have let Ba-Ado-Mishram out. What I'm wondering is if Dalinar's more concerned about restoring the promise that Malishi and Honor made to Ba-Ado-Mishram, if that's more important than the actual physical return of Ba-Ado-Mishram. Do you guys see the distinction I'm trying to make here?
I do. And I think the section in the Dalinar POV is not so much Dalinar thinking about this as Dalinar feeling this.
Sure.
Which is what's making me think that Dalinar's experience of this seems to imply that this is going to be a good thing because it says this. Dalinar felt the moment Renarin and Merlane released Ba-Ado-Mishram, a long-lasting discordant note vibrating the soul of Roshar in the most terrible of ways was finally extinguished. Something that had been broken for so very long, righted. Like that to me is not necessarily Dalinar providing any opinions there, just more observing.
Sure.
Oh, wow, Roshar was out of tune. And oh my goodness, that just sounds so much better now that we've got Mishram back in the world. So that seems to imply positive. Whereas very angry Mishram set out to go release her wrath feels very negative.
Right. I would feel much better about Ba-Ado-Mishram if she wasn't unmade. If she was pre-unmade self and she was the spren of all spren on Roshar like she originally was, then yeah, I think, letting her back on the planet and helping all the spren be who they be the spren that they should be, absolutely. But Odium has unmade her since then, so I feel like that's an issue.
Yeah, I've certainly wrestled with this of like, is it the right choice to free Mishram or not? I'm assuming that Mishram, since here we are in the middle of day 10, is the X factor involved. So I'm gonna say that this is good. We still don't know. I anticipate that's where we're gonna pick up next. But I don't know. I don't know. She could just go on this rampage destruction. She could be totally fine.
My actual prediction has to do with the Dalinar stuff. So I will go ahead and say this, but it'll be out of order since we haven't talked about Dalinar yet. We're kind of talking around Dalinar until we get to the middle. I think Dalinar has just voided the contest and opened Odium up to an open conflict with Ba-Ado-Mishram, is what's about to happen. I think Ba-Ado-Mishram is about to go after Odium after the contest has been voided. After what Dalinar does at the end of this chapter here.
I have like 4 questions for you.
But we haven't talked about Dalinar
But we
yet.
haven't got there yet, so
right.
I will ask you them momentarily.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Dalinar because I don't think we can continue this episode until we do. Dalinar has the conundrum. Do I fight Gavinor or not? He comes to the conclusion of, I don't know yet. Give me a second. I need to go take some more lessons. And he does. He goes and talks to the Stormfather, and the Stormfather's like, yeah, I can't help you, bud. And then he talks to Honor, and Honor's like, nope, I can't accept you yet, bud. And then Dalinar says, oh, I got it. I know the words. And then he turns to Honor and says, I understand you. And Honor says, yeah, okay. After Ba-Ado-Mishram is released, Honor's like, okay, now that that's righted, I can accept you. Dalinar picks up Honor in full. It specifically says that. Somebody's bingo slot got checked off. I don't remember whose. Honor is picked up in full for about 5 minutes.
Well, okay. All right. So,
well, we go talk to Noadon, so it just depends on how long we talk to Noadon for, and that's how long that's how long Honor's held for. Okay,
so we need to talk a few other things first, but I'm gonna ask the question. We're not going to answer it. Who is he breaking his bond with?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Right, that's the question.
Yeah,
but let's talk other. Yeah, okay. Keep going.
Dalinar picks up Honor, and then goes and talks to Noadon and says, oh, yes, my one final vision. I get to go talk to Noadon. And Noadon says, sup, Dalinar? Dang it. All of us passed on the Noadon calls Dalinar by name slot. I'm so bad. I almost grabbed it, and I didn't. Noadon calls Dalinar by name in the book, and he bakes him some bread, and they have some butter and salt on it. And they talk about, hey, should I kill Gavinor? You'd kill Gavinor, wouldn't you? And Noadon says, would I? And they go back and forth on it. And Dalinar comes to two separate conclusions. Did you guys catch them?
I think so. What how exactly he's about to do them, I'm not sure. But yeah, let's talk about what he gets to.
The first one, one of the problems is the power of honor. Honor needs to change. Honor needs to evolve. Honor needs to see there's flaws in just holding an oath. That's a problem. The second one is we need to beat Odium, and I can figure out how to do it. And he talks to Noadon about this. Am I a bad person for just passing it to my next generation? And Noadon says, not necessarily if they're good. And Dalinar says, yeah, they're great. I'll go ahead and do it. And then he renounces his oaths. I think Dalinar's about to die.
Yeah.
Dalinar is...
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. He's at least about to be incapacitated.
Here is what I think he's gotten to. So he meets with Noadon. He breaks bread. He chats. It's all happy. They see the little representation of honor as a child come in. They're figuring this out. Dalinar realizes, yep, honor needs to change. Honor's thinking like a child, so he can change. But then I think he gets to the conclusion where Dalinar says, I can't beat Odium, but I can set things up so that the next generation can.
Right.
Is I think where he's getting here. So he is basically saying, I'm going to lose. Like me personally. Not necessarily lose the contest, although I think that's actually exactly what's about to happen.
I think it's not about to happen.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Dalinar, I think, is saying, I am going to sacrifice. So these are where my two words came in, legacy and sacrifice. I'm going to leave a legacy by making the sacrifice. I'm going to fail or die or whatever this looks like, so that Odium is in a position that the next generation, if they play it right, can ultimately defeat him.
Yep.
But the question still remains, I think, what exactly does that look like?
Sure.
And that maybe kind of gets into the question of what you were getting at there, Trevor, of what is the very next thing he's going to do look like? Does he die? Does he surrender? Does he how is he making the sacrifice?
Do you have any 2 cents, Paul, before I go on a rant?
Yes. This is echoing a lot of what Eliot is saying. Like, this is the question. We touched on this briefly last week. Do you, if you're Dalinar, do you kill Gavinor to save Roshar? And I even want to throw in there what I thought was really interesting and really well written, kind of unfortunately well written by Sanderson, was the scenarios that Todium puts forth. He said, would it be helpful if I would it be better if this was a random person you didn't know, or if I put a sack on their head so you didn't have to look them in the eyes while you kill them, and things like that. And Dalinar kind of realizes, like, he has this realization of, it's not even just that this is Gavinor at this point. It's, can I kill a person who doesn't deserve it? Like, can I enact this? And anyway, I'm just like, I don't have much to add other than this is just brutal.
Yeah.
And so instead we get instead of seeing a real decision made. We get he becomes the honor vessel of honor and chats with Noadon, which is awesome. Not going to hear me complaining.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the conclusion he comes to with Noadon, and this is going to back up my claim here. Dalinar, over this last 10 chapters, ever since he figured out it was Gavinor, has figured out it's a lose-lose. We cannot win here. So what's the third option? We nullify the contract. We back out of the contest. That's the third option. So how do you do that? You're already in the contest. Any guesses?
You say I would like you refuse to speak. You say I'd like to talk to my lawyer.
I plead the fifth.
I think that's how it goes. I think.
Eliot?
I don't know. I don't know. Because if he breaks the contract, doesn't that remove a bunch of restrictions on Odium
Yes.
like that?
But it opens him up to being directly assaulted by his forces. Again,
Okay.
right?
Maybe.
Like Kaladin, Adolin, Shallan, they can all go stab Odium.
But okay. Okay, I'm thinking about this very differently.
The war starts again.
Okay. I think I'm thinking longer term.
Uh-huh.
Way longer term.
Yes, I agree that you are. That he's going to purposely lose so that next generation can win 20 years later.
That's where I'm thinking. And so
Right.
in that scenario, if we break the terms, Odium has 20 years of freedom in the Cosmere, and that's a big problem.
Absolutely. If we don't stop him right now.
Right.
Right. I agree with you.
So I think
Ba-Ado-Mishram is coming on the scene. He needs to open Odium up to attack right now.
now here's interesting. Okay. Maybe.
How do you do that? You nullify the contest. How do you nullify the contest? You kill one of the people that the contest is held between. Honor. Dalinar just made a Deadeye of honor. He renounces his oaths, nullifies the contract between honor and Odium. Honor is dead.
Maybe.
I feel like every week Trevor has a new area where the contract is no longer in effect,
Uh-huh.
and I applaud it. That's really funny. I have to say though, I don't love that our only route to success is a technicality out of the contract.
Sure. The way I came to this conclusion is we just saw Sigzil renounce his oaths. And Vienta died. Became a Deadeye. We just saw Szeth renounce his oaths. And 24601 ran off to wherever the high spread hang out. We just saw Dalinar renounce his oaths. He is now going to make a Deadeye of whatever he is bonded to. Right now, that is the full shard of honor.
Does it work that way though? With a shard?
I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask. With the shard,
I
if
think
you
it works
renounce
that
it,
way.
I don't think the shard dies, right? It's not like a Deadeye, like a Spren. Like it would just go back to being essentially how it was, right? Where it could find a vessel if it wants to, but he didn't like destroy the shard of honor or nerf or just like hurt the shard of honor. I don't think
he did.
I don't think
I
he
think
did.
he splintered himself.
I don't
and
think
he is
so.
dead.
I don't think so.
I think we're going to turn the page and honor is dead.
So then are you saying there's 15 shards when we turn the page?
Well, I mean, as much as Dominion and
His honor
Devotion
was dead before, yeah.
Yeah, right. As much
But-
as Dominion and Devotion are still around, but they're dead. You know, like
So he's just like, is anything gonna change? Is my question. It's just you grab honor, you drop honor, and it breaks the contract.
correct.
So is
He
that
he has died. Honor has died. The contract is now void since there's nobody there to hold the contract, and now we get to attack Odium.
Tim is just over there cackling at the
Oh yeah,
place that he dropped us and the,
Oh, yeah.
the amount of theories that we have to spin now in the
You're
very
right.
middle of this, where no other reader anywhere in the world stopped right here.
Yeah.
I guess question for you, Trevor. I hadn't really considered what you're proposing because I hadn't really considered Dalinar even being able to do that. That he renouncing his oaths would break the shard. That hadn't entered my consideration. Question for you. Do you feel that's consistent with where we just came from with the vision with Noadon, where he sees the child representation of honor? He's like, oh, okay, honor needs to grow.
yeah. He needs
and
to.
you're saying that like the next step he takes after that is to destroy
and have someone else grab it later once it's evolved.
Okay.
Right? It's the same thing that Tanavast did. And right at the end of the chapter, Tanavast is like, yep, go ahead and do this. The Stormfather's like, yep, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah,
and then Dalinar says, all right, I'll do it. I renounce my oaths. I think he splintered himself.
I think honor and the Stormfather have become different at this point. So,
I agree with you.
let me propose to you the way I read this. The way I read this is that when he says, I renounce my oaths, he is breaking his bond and making the Stormfather a Deadeye, not honor. And so that bit at the end where Tanavast makes this decision with him, he's like, oh, I realize what you're doing. Yes, I am willing. This is my choice too. Do it now. I think he's saying, yes, break our oaths. I will become a Deadeye, but you need to do this. Why exactly? I'm not 100% sure. I have some thoughts, but I guess I was not thinking this was a breaking of Dalinar and Honor's relationship, but it was a breaking of Dalinar and the Stormfather / Tanavast's relationship.
I hear you.
And, well, I'm going to spin that in a bunch of other ways. It's going to go different directions. So, Paul, I see you're about to take a drink, but do you have anything to weigh in on this before I take the ball even further?
Take it away.
Okay. So if we go with that interpretation of Dalinar's breaking his oaths with the Stormfather, but remaining the vessel of honor, my brain wanted to go the direction of, is Dalinar going to surrender, but find a way to like cripple himself? Seems like a weird way to say it, but limit himself. Can he cut off all of his power and then surrender to Taravangian and say, okay, you win, but doing so in a way that sabotages his usefulness to Taravangian, allowing himself to be easily defeated by our next generation of heroes. That Dalinar is going to go become the Blackthorn general of Taravangian, but he'll be so weak and powerless that Kaladin's going to be able to take him down easily.
He asked the Stormfather that question, can I do that? And the Stormfather said, yeah, but he's going to make you a fused anyway.
Right.
He's going to kill you and then make you a fused, and you're going to have to serve him anyway. Like, that's not going to work.
But can the renown... I remember that. I don't know. I feel like splintering honor doesn't fit with the resolution that Dalinar gets to at the end of the scene.
Okay.
I don't know if my other interpretation fits better. I think it
Sure.
still has problems.
Sure.
But I'm not sure if I'm bought in. Oh man. I don't know.
Which way are you leaning, Paul? Honor's dead or Stormfather's dead?
I think Stormfather is certainly dead.
Okay.
I think there's a chance it's both. I think it's got to be that Stormfather is dead, and I don't know what good can come from getting Honor's power and then just dropping it right away.
Well,
I don't know.
He's voiding the contract. That's the whole point.
Well, I know, but that's lame. That's so lame.
No.
The contract technicality is the very end of this book is like, I think, criminally lame.
And then we get to
I'll be
backstab
honest.
Odium with Ba-Ado-Mishram? How is that lame?
I mean, that's good. I hope that happens, but like, I don't know.
Voiding the contract to me also feels so risky.
Oh, absolutely it is.
So
I agree
risky.
with you that. I agree with you there.
Like if it does play out that way.
You just let the genie out of the bottle. You better kill the genie before he leaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if Mishram is the silver bullet, aluminum bullet, whatever they would use in this world, then for Dalinar to put all his cards, all his chips on that number feels really risky.
But he's got faith. He's got faith in his sons. He's got faith in Kaladin. He's got faith in Shallan and Relaine. He sees them all in this vision, and he says, and no one asks him, can they handle it? And Dalinar says, yep, they got it. They're the guys.
He's talking back half. He's talking back half. That is not happening in the next 50 pages. There are only 50 pages left in this book.
That's happening next episode.
No.
You will come back next week and you will say, man, Trevor, you are so correct.
I've done that like twice already. And I will not do it a third time. It is not what is going down in the next 50 weeks.
I know how Brandon Sanderson thinks, Eliot.
Yeah, you've been in this world longer than
I'm in his head.
I know.
Yeah, you didn't get the whole Gavinor grows up though. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. I have to give you those points today and every day for the rest of this podcast, I think.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I truthfully don't know exactly where this is going to go, but we are going to flip the page and something crazy is going to happen regardless. I think the big flip that you're expecting, Trevor, is not going to come from a dead Honor, but from Ba-Ado-Mishram being out and about.
But the poetry of you flip the page and it says Honor is dead. You don't see
Dalinar killed him or something like that. Yeah, okay.
Honor is dead, but we'll see what we can do here. But you don't see the wonderful poetry there.
Yeah, okay, I do see that. But
now that's a finale.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna be right. Just you wait. All right, Ellie. Speaking of flipping pages, you said something about the chapter headers. What happened to the chapter headers?
Oh yes. Okay, so a little while back, about halfway through this book, way too late, I realized the fact that our chapter header arches were falling apart. And I chuckled at that. I should have noticed that way sooner. So we had a good chat about that. We had some fun reveals in the upcoming days where we flipped the day over and our chapter headers were degraded even further. So I was like, haha, Brandon, okay, you're clever. You tricked me. I didn't notice it. That was sneaky. Yeah, he got me again. In all previous days, I've gone back and checked this. The header arches, they degrade over a day, but then they stay the same throughout the day.
Okay.
That is no longer true in day 10. Every single chapter, they are degrading further. Every single chapter header through day 10, they are falling apart more and more and more and more. And it took me a good 10 chapters to realize this. And I should have realized it quite a bit further ago. Here's the state of our chapter headers in 142.
You can barely read the title.
There is not much left. And that's not how it looked at the beginning of day 10. There was still a bit, like the top part had fallen, but there
Yeah.
was still a whole bunch of the arch left. That there is not much of our arches left in our header. I am 100% sure now that by the end of the book, that there's going to be nothing left but just the title.
Or
And-
do we even get titles for the last 2 chapters?
Right. Well, okay, so this now brings up something else interesting. It was in that moment when I realized that I also remembered something else. I talked about this at the very beginning of this book. So at Dragonsteel Nexus, where we got this book, I was able to collect a fair number of artist signatures in my book. So I think it's a total of 7 of the contributing artists who were able to sign my book, which was super cool. I have yet to find one of those. There were a bunch of artists where I would go up to them and say, "Hey, I see your credit in this book. Can you sign it?" But it would be artwork that's like halfway through the book. So I would just hand them my book. They would literally like turn around, sign it, and then hand it back to me. So I didn't know where in the book they signed it. I have found all but one. And that person is, I'm going to butcher her name. I'm sorry. Haley Lazo. Haley Lazo. She is credited for the chapter arches.
Oh. So she gonna sign? Did she sign the last one? Maybe.
I don't know. There's not many pages left in this book, and I have not found her signature yet.
That's pretty cool.
That's really exciting. I didn't realize it would keep going through day 10. That is really cool.
So, the chapter arches are still falling apart. It is still looking like the end of the world is nigh upon us, and Haley Lasso has something to do with that. That's my theory.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? I'm getting very excited.
I think that's all I've got. We are there. This is it. I need to know what happens on the very next page of where we left this.
We're not there yet.
Almost.
Next week we have 143, 144, and 145. And the week after that we have 146 through the end credits.
Oh boy.
I have no idea how many chapters that is, how many epilogues that is. I got no clue. But we have 3 chapters next week and the end of the book the week after.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
Finally.
Thanks for joining me, Paul and Eliot.
Toodles.
Here we go.